When I first saw her, she was standing in the middle of the college courtyard, clutching her phone like it was the last piece of her world that hadn't fallen apart yet. The sunlight caught the edges of her hair, a soft chestnut brown that shimmered like it refused to dull, even when her eyes clearly had. Her name was Mira, and I didn't know then that one small joke from me would change both our lives. I was running late for my class, carrying a half-finished coffee and a backpack that had seen better days, when I heard someone yell across the courtyard. A guy well-dressed, confident, the kind of man who never got told no, was following her. His voice was sharp with entitlement. Mira turned, her expression trapped between anger and fear. She muttered something I couldn't hear, but he grabbed her wrist, and something in me snapped. Without thinking, I walked up and said, "Hey, babe, I've been looking everywhere for you." Mira blinked, confused, but I gave her a look that begged her to play along. After a long second, she nodded faintly and stepped closer to me. The guy froze. "You know this loser?" he spat. "Yeah," she said, finding strength in her trembling voice. "He's my boyfriend." He glared, muttered something under his breath, and walked away. The moment he was gone, she let out a breath she'd clearly been holding for far too long. That's when I joked, half to ease the tension, half to make her smile. "Well, that was easy. Guess I'll pretend to be your boyfriend anytime you need saving." Her lips curved just a little before she replied, "We'll need practice. No one will buy it otherwise. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected connections that change lives, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. Your one click keeps stories like this alive." We started spending time together as a joke, really. She said it would make her ex stop bothering her if people actually believed she'd moved on. I didn't mind. Mira had this quietness that pulled people in, not the shy kind, but the kind that comes from someone who's seen too much and still finds ways to smile. She studied fine arts, and I was an engineering major, so our worlds rarely overlapped. Yet, every lunch, every coffee, every walk by the campus fountain turned into a habit I didn't want to break. She would bring her sketchbook everywhere. Sometimes she'd draw strangers, sometimes she'd draw the same scene over and over until it was perfect. One day, as we sat under an old maple tree near the library, she showed me a sketch of the courtyard, the exact spot where we first met. She'd drawn me there too, coffee cup in hand, stepping between her and the guy. "You look braver on paper," she said softly. I laughed, but her eyes lingered on mine, serious for a moment. "You didn't even know me," she whispered. "Why did you step in?" "Because you looked like you needed someone to," I said. And I figured maybe that someone could be me, even if just for a minute. For a second, she didn't say anything. Then she smiled, a real one this time, and it felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. Over the next few weeks, pretending started to feel less like a role and more like something real. We took pictures together for social media, posted stories of our coffee dates, even held hands when her ex or his friends were around. But somewhere between fake smiles and rehearsed laughter, I started falling for her. Not the kind of falling you can stop with logic or reason, but the kind that takes over slowly, like waves eroding a shore. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was all an act. But every time she'd laugh, every time she'd look at me like I made her feel safe, something deep inside me shifted. I started noticing things: how she'd tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear when she was nervous, how her hands trembled slightly when she was sketching, how her eyes would drift toward the horizon whenever she thought no one was watching. Then one afternoon, everything changed. It was mid-September. We were supposed to meet at the art studio after my class, but when I got there, she wasn't inside. Her phone was off, her bag was gone, and her sketchbook sat open on the desk. On the page was a drawing of a girl sitting on a bench, her head bowed, her world collapsing around her. My chest tightened. I searched everywhere: library, cafeteria, courtyard, until I finally found her sitting by the lake behind the college. She was staring at the water, eyes red, face pale. I sat beside her quietly. "He showed up again," she said finally. "He said he'd never stop until I talked to him. That he'd ruin me if I didn't." I clenched my fists. "Did he hurt you?" She shook her head. "Not physically. But he knows how to get inside my head. He always has." She looked at me then, her voice breaking. "I thought pretending would make him go away. But maybe I was wrong." I didn't know what to say. I just put my arm around her, and she leaned into me. We sat there until the sun started to dip, painting the lake in soft oranges and blues. For the first time, she didn't talk, didn't joke, she just let herself be small, fragile, and human. From that day, our act became something deeper. I found myself walking her to class, waiting for her after lectures, making sure she got home safe. Mira began to open up little by little. She told me about her childhood, her dreams of becoming an illustrator, how she'd lost her mom when she was 16, and how drawing was the only thing that ever helped her feel close to her again. She said, "You ever feel like you're pretending to be okay so long that you forget what real okay feels like?" And I nodded, because I did. Weeks passed. Her laughter returned, lighter now, unforced. We went to art exhibitions, shared late-night snacks, and she made me promise to take her to the mountains one day. "I've never seen snow," she said with a smile. "I want to see it for real, not just on paper." Then came the day she told me she got accepted for an art internship abroad. Paris. 3 months. I smiled and told her she deserved it, but inside, it felt like my chest was being torn open. She said she didn't want to go alone, that she'd miss our practice sessions. I told her we could still talk every day. I meant it. But I could tell she wanted something more. On her last night before leaving, we met by the lake again. The moonlight shimmered across the water. She gave me a sketch, our first day together, drawn perfectly, right down to the half-empty coffee cup. On the back, she wrote, "For the boy who pretended, and somehow made it feel real." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell her I loved her. I wanted to ask her to stay. But all I could do was pull her into a hug and whisper, "Come back safe." She smiled through tears. "We'll need more practice when I get back," she said. Months passed. Her messages came less often as she got busier. I'd wake up to pictures of Paris streets, of her sketches, of her smile, but something in them always felt far away. I told myself it was just distance. I waited. I kept believing that one day she'd come back, and we'd pick up where we left off. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from her friend. There had been an accident. A small car on a rainy street in Paris. Mira didn't make it. I remember the world going silent. The air left my lungs. I couldn't even cry at first. I went to the lake that night and sat there for hours, clutching that sketch she gave me, the edges now soft from how often I'd held it. In the weeks that followed, I visited the art studio often. One of her professors told me they found a sealed envelope among her things, addressed to me. Inside was another drawing, me again, standing by the lake, holding her sketch. Below it, she'd written, "You helped me remember what it felt like to be safe. If I never come back, promise you'll still find beauty in the world for both of us." That night, I broke down completely, but something shifted too. I started painting, not well, not like her, but enough to feel close to her again. I began volunteering at a local art center, helping kids who couldn't afford supplies. It became therapy, in a way to carry her light forward. Now, every time I pass the maple tree on campus, I look up and whisper, "We're still practicing, Mira. You'd be proud." If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to kindly tube. Your support keeps real stories of hope and love alive. And before you go, drop a cherry blossom in the comments to honor someone who made you believe in kindness again, because sometimes, even a joke said in passing can become the most beautiful truth of all.